Indiana basketball has got recruits coming in. Mike Woodson has, I think he is really, I don't want to say caught on, but he knows how to recruit now. I mean, he knows how to do it. He is with the families. I think he knows the right things to do, the right things to say. I've heard a lot from a lot of different people that Indiana tells you what they tell you, and it's the truth. They're not giving you any BS, specifically about Mike Woodson. And every recruit likes everything about the recruitment by Indiana, and you can see that by the elevation of elite talent that's coming. I mean, right now you've got we just had the visit here, the wins that they've had with Mbako and crew, Jaden Mustaf coming in. Let's see, after that you've got Boogie Flan coming in, Tyler Betsy coming in, Liam McNeely, of course, all these Dylan Harper. They're in on all of these guys, and this is. Indiana could potentially land a number one recruiting class next year. I'm not saying they're getting all these guys, but they are in on these guys tight. I mean, they have been working hard on these guys, and everybody else does as well. And you don't generally see people get all them, but Kentucky gets those kind of classes. As a matter of fact, that's the exact class that Kentucky's bringing in next year. I mean, they have, is it 3 or 4 guys in the top 11?
I think it's 4 in the top 11. Yeah, I think a lot of things are at play here, Jim. One is it's year 3. These are guys they've had a chance to build relationships with since they were, after their freshman year of high school and into their sophomore year of high school. They're not playing catch up with other schools. The last couple of years they were. They were trying to build relationships with guys who had already had stronger relationships with other schools. 2, he's gone to the tournament in back-to-back seasons. 3, he's going to put Jalen Hood-Schifino a one and done in the NBA draft, and Trace Jackson Davis has gone from a guy who looked like he wasn't going to get drafted to a guy who is going to get drafted. That resonates with people. And the most important thing is, as you mentioned, Mike Woodson has figured it out. I think he's got a very good ability to connect with mothers and fathers. I've heard that about several different recruits, that he talks to mothers and fathers in a way that they trust him to send their son to play for Mike Woodson. And, when you get endorsement from Carmelo Anthony and other people like that, all the pieces come together. And the NIL component helps. Indiana's got a strong NIL component. So, as you mentioned, they're in on a very strong group of kids in the 24 class. They need to get, you're not going to get them all. They need to get 3 or 4. And then the 25 class is also strong, and they're in a bunch of guys on that. And that's got 2 in-state kids that are going to be hard to get. Trent Sisley from down in Heritage Hills and Jalen Harrelson from up in Fishers. You got to try and, get those 2 kids if you can and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and if those were to happen, that would be up there with what Bob Knight did. I mean, Bob Knight, he brought in those greats. He brought in role players, but man, he had great players. You go back and you think about it, whether it was Alford or Brian Evans or Calbert Cheney, just that run there. Brian Evans just kept bringing those local guys in, and man, that would be fun for the fans, because Assembly Hall would most likely be jumping.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, I think the 1989 class was Calbert Cheney, Greg Graham, and Pat Graham. And it might have been Chris Lawson from Bloomington who left and went to Vanderbilt. And then the next year, Damon Bailey followed.
Lawrence Funderburk
Was in there, but I'm talking about in-state kids.
Oh, Todd Leary.
Todd Leary, Damon Bailey. That was important stuff. And Crean did have a good run of getting some Indiana kids there when he got Jordan Hulls and Cody Zeller and Colin Hartman and Devin Davis and Austin Etherington and, some other players from in the state and James Blackman Jr. and stuff. But that really fell off towards the end. And then we all know the last year when he didn't get, Chris Wilkes and Jaron Jackson and Scruggs, and there was one other one. 4 strong in-state kids, and none of them went to Indiana. That was tough for Tom Crean to overcome.
So is with they've got to keep winning, of course, and this upcoming season. He's got a bunch of new guys in that are going to have to mesh. 7 new faces. Khalil Ware, of course, is playing. I don't know if he's in yet because I know he's involved with playing in the USA team. But the other guys have moved in, I believe, and are here going through workouts. The dreaded man, those dreaded, I can see them right now out there running in the sand and all that crap that they do. I'm like going, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. That's too long ago, man. One other person, someone I think that may be the most, what's the word I'm looking, revered, the most revered person of all time in Indiana basketball. And I would probably, it will make sense when I say it, but it's probably not the first person someone's going to guess. But who would you guess is to be the most revered person in all of IU basketball?
Wow. Coach or a player?
It could be either. Doesn't have to be either. It doesn't have to be either.
Calvert Chaney is one. I mean, but
I'm going to stop you because it's kind of a trick question. Tim Garl.
Who?
Tim Garl.
Tim Garl. Yeah, Tim Garl's very revered. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's the most revered because he's been through. When did he come here? 1912. He looks like he's the same age as whatever he got here. By the way,
but he wasn't with the first. I don't think he was with the undefeated championship team. I think he came right after that.
Okay, so he's been here since the late 70s, probably.
Yeah.
A trainer, but he has so much more to every one of these players than a trainer. Every time I see these players come back, one of the first people they got to talk to is Tim Garl.
Right.
And the documentary about Indiana going on that overseas trip was on last night, and I watched. Just happened to see it. It was really cool. And he had to do all of the traveling arrangements. He had to do everything. I'm like, what the hell? He's a trainer, but he was doing just everything. But I've seen it right up until it doesn't matter. The thing about the coaches, there's been Knight, there's been Davis, there's been Sampson and Dockage and Crean and Miller and now Woodson. Garl was with every group of those kids, every one of them, and they all have this. They all love him to death. It's amazing to see that.
Yeah, I mean Tim Garl's. He is an IU icon institution, along with Dr. Rink, who's been there for so long, and Dr. Alfeld, who's the orthopedic guy there. I mean, that group, 1981, Pete says Garl was hired. So I guess if it depended on when it was in 81, he might have only been a part of one championship team. But, yeah, Garl is the guy that a lot of the players mentioned in their farewell speech, and I know they're really close to him, and they listen to what he says, and he's gotten a lot of guys through a lot of difficult moments.